20 years ago, religious history is made in the last frontier.
November 30th, 1895, the state's first Episcopal bishop is consecrated. His name, Peter Trimble Rowe, a man who traveled by dog team, boat, and snowshoes to establish Alaska's Episcopal churches during his decades-long tenure as the state's bishop. To tell his story in a bit more detail this morning, Laurel Downing Bill, author of the Aunt Phil's Trunk Alaskan History series, joins us for some story time with Aunt Phil. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, Rowe's influence still very much visible today, even if you don't know much about it.
That's right. Every time you pass one of those beautiful Episcopal churches that dot Alaska's landscape, think Bishop Rowe. Following his consecration as Alaska's first Episcopal bishop, he traveled extensively and preached to the Alaska Natives and the gold rush miners.
So Rowe was originally from Canada. What did he think of Alaska?
Oh, he thought it was a wild country. But he was used to being in the wilderness because he had been in Canada before he came here. In fact, he told a reporter once that he carved his bed out of the snow in the wintertime and slept on branches and leaves in the summertime. He established 16 missions in 5 years in Canada and wanted to do the same thing in Alaska.
That sounds like a lot of missions. So where would he start here in Alaska?
Well, he arrived in the Great Land by going up the Chilkoot Trail, and soon he had established missions like the Holy Trinity Church in Juneau, St. Peter's by the Sea in Sitka, and the St. Philip's in Wrangell. He was there, he moved on to Skagway, where he saw a great need for a hospital because, you know, that's the time when you had the big influx of people coming up trying to get up to the gold rush's area of Klondike. And he found people that were suffering from spinal meningitis, influenza, even frostbite and bronchitis.
Wow, I'm guessing that put a bit of a wrinkle in his plans. So would he stay to help, or would he keep traveling throughout the state to establish more of these missions?
He wrote a letter to his superiors explaining what was going on, and the townspeople had turned their health care over to him, and he had assumed responsibility for a log building. And he dedicated it in let me think, it was April 1898. It was dedicated as the Bishop Rowe Hospital. And he helped fill it with beds and a few doctors and medicine. And then he also established hospitals in Wrangell and Ketchikan, Fort Yukon, Rampart, and Iditarod.
So a bunch of hospitals established, but again, he was there. His mission was to set up these missions. Would he eventually get to finish what he had started?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. In Cordova, he dedicated the St. George Mission, which was also called the Red Dragon, in July of 1908. Now, this was kind of like a reading room, and it also had a piano and a pool table, and it was open 7 days a week as an alternative to 26 saloons that lined Main Street in Cordova while they were building that Copper River Railroad. He ended up serving Alaska until his death in 1942. So all the churches, the Episcopal churches in Alaska stand in testimony to the dedication he had to serve the people who call Alaska home.